Have you ever stopped to think about what's actually going on inside your muscles when you lift a weight? I mean, deep down at the molecular level. Well, today we're going to unpack the incredible machinery that controls whether your muscles grow or shrink. And you know what? It all revolves around this one master switch, a protein called mTOR. Understanding mTOR is basically the key to understanding muscle itself. So we all get the basics, right? You go to the gym, you do some resistance training, and over time, your muscles get bigger and stronger. But how? How does that physical stress of lifting something heavy actually translate into a biological signal that tells your body, hey, we need to build more protein here? That's the big question we're diving into. And look, this isn't just a topic for bodybuilders or pro athletes. What the latest research is telling us is that our skeletal muscle is a massive regulator of our entire body's metabolism. Seriously, the health of your muscles has a direct impact on your quality of life. So figuring out the signals that control it, well, that's important for pretty much everyone. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at the big picture, the muscle growth engine. Then we'll properly meet the mastermind behind it all, mTOR. After that, we'll check out the go signals that kick off muscle building, compare the two different mTOR teams, and then flip the coin to look at the stop signals that cause atrophy. And finally, we'll bring it all together to see how this constant tug of war really works. So let's get right to it. What is the fundamental principle that decides whether our muscles are growing or shrinking? It really all boils down to this one simple concept. Just think of your muscle mass like a bank account. Anabolism, which is the building up process, is like making deposits. Catabolism, the breaking down process, is like making withdrawals. So how much muscle you have at any given moment is literally just the balance between those two forces. Okay, so if it's a balancing act, who's the one in charge? Who's the accountant making all the decisions? Well, that brings us to the star of today's show. This is mTOR. You can think of it as the general contractor or the command center of the cell. It's this incredible protein that is constantly sensing everything that's going on. Stuff like hormones, growth factors, how many nutrients are available, even physical stress. And based on all that information, it makes the big call. Are we building or are we breaking down? Now, I know this diagram looks a little intense at first glance, but don't worry about it. This is our roadmap. All you need to know for now is that the blue lines are the go signals telling mTOR to build, and the red lines, those are the stop signals. We're just going to walk through the most important parts one by one. Let's start with the fun part, the most powerful go signal for muscle growth. It's a pathway that gets kicked into high gear by exercise and a really important hormone. Let me introduce you to IGF-1. This is one of the most potent muscle-building hormones we have. When you work out, your muscles not only start making their own IGF-1, but they also get way more sensitive to it. It's basically the starting pistol that fires off the whole muscle-building race. So how does that IGF-1 signal actually get from the outside of the cell to the inside to do its job? Well, it's like a perfectly choreographed relay race. First, IGF-1 latches onto the outside of the muscle cell. This triggers a chain reaction on the inside. The most important handoff is when a molecule called ACT basically slams the brakes on a protein that was holding MTR back. With that brake disabled, MTR is free to hit the gas. It then fires up all the protein-building machinery by phosphorylating its targets, which is just a fancy way of saying it flips a bunch of chemical on switches. The bottom line is simple. IGF-1 starts a domino effect that takes the brakes off MCR, giving it a big green light for growth. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. You see, mTOR isn't a solo act. It actually operates in two different teams, or complexes, inside the cell. We call them mTORC1 and mTORC2, and they have very, very different jobs. This table really shows you that division of labor. Think of mTRC1 as the construction foreman on the job site. Its main job is building more protein and making the cell bigger, right now. mTRC2, on the other hand, is more like the site manager. It's focused on the long game. Things like managing the energy supply, making sure the cell's structure is sound, basically keeping the whole operation running smoothly so that growth can even happen. You absolutely need both for the project to be a success. All right, we've talked a lot about the gas pedal, so now it's time to look at the brakes. We've seen the go signals, but what about the stop signals? What tells mTOR to shut down production and maybe even start breaking things down? So the first major brake pedal is a protein called myostatin. Its whole purpose in life is to stop muscle from growing. In fact, there are animals and even some people with rare genetic mutations that lower their myostatin, and they are incredibly muscular. It's a really powerful off switch. And the second big stop signal comes from a group of hormones called glucocorticoids. You've probably heard of cortisol. Our bodies release these during times of major stress, like if you're sick, injured, or even fasting for a long time. Their goal is to put the body into a catabolic state to free up energy and resources. And a huge part of that is by breaking down muscle tissue. And these two signals work in pretty different ways. Myostatin is direct. It basically jumps in and blocks that go pathway we just talked about. Glucocorticoids, though, are a bit more sneaky. They go straight into the cell's nucleus and switch on genes that create mTOR inhibitors. But here's the double whammy. They also tell the cell to make more myostatin. So it's like hitting the brakes and cutting the fuel line at the exact same time. Okay, let's zoom back out and put all these pieces of the puzzle together. What does this constant biological tug-of-war actually look like in the grand scheme of things? So here are the key things to remember. mTOR is the central command hub, listening to all these competing signals. Anabolic, or GO, signals, like IGF-1, switch mTORC1 on to build protein. Catabolic, or stop, signals, like myostatin and glucocorticoids, find clever ways to switch the whole mTOR pathway off. At the end of the day, the size and strength of your muscles are just the net result of which side is winning this molecular battle. And this all leads us to a really critical final thought. This isn't just some abstract biology lecture. Deeply understanding this mTOR pathway could be revolutionary for developing treatments for muscle wasting that we see in diseases like cancer or even just with the natural aging process. If mTOR really is the master switch, just imagine what could happen if we learn how to control it. It could completely change how we think about human health and longevity.